Hey friends, here are your news headlines from Earth One for Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. I think the big headline is that yesterday Joe Biden did it. He did it. He passed a very, very restrictive bill closing the border when he wants to. It is shameful that, of course, Republicans refuse to act on border policy, forcing the president to finally sign an executive order that'll temporarily shut down asylum requests once the average number of daily encounters tops 2,500 between official ports of entry. According to some senior administration officials, they can shut down the border apparently whenever they want. Super confusing, very controversial. The ACLU already threatening to sue. Also yesterday, it was Merrick Garland this time on the hot seat in Capitol Hill. The day before, it was Dr. Fauci. This time it was the Attorney General Merrick Garland, rebuked by many Republicans for what he described was an unprecedented attack on the Justice Department, told lawmakers who have sought to hold him in contempt that he will not be intimidated. I've got his full statement coming up in the audio section of today's news segment. You got to listen to the podcast for that. Let's go to Ukraine, where they have finally been given a green light to strike inside Russia using U.S. weapons, and they might have actually done it, senior Ukrainian official hinting Monday that they hit a missile system inside Russia using Western weapons just days after Ukraine's allies got, including the U.S., approved their limited use. Now let's go to Uganda, where there's a humanitarian disaster. I've got to mention their sexual minorities there are facing escalating human rights violations with over 1,000 cases recorded in the last 9 months involving arrests, torture, and house evictions, among others, according to a major important report from an advocacy group. Let's come back to the U.S. and go to Capitol Hill, where Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced yesterday that the Senate will now vote on an actual bill to protect people's rights to use contraceptions. That's right. They are voting to protect Americans' ability to access contraceptives. And House Democrats, in a related story, unveiled a new plan yesterday to attempt to force a vote on contraception protections, or at least get Republicans in the House on the record on the issue before November's elections. That's what we're talking about in 2024, whether or not we're going to have access to contraception. I think it's a few steps backward. Christian nationalists are really doing a number on us. And one more story from Capitol Hill. Senator Mark Warner, who is the Senate Intelligence Committee vice chairman, he warned yesterday that with only 5 months before voters head to the polls, we might be more vulnerable to foreign disinformation aimed at influencing voters and undermining democracy than was before the 2020 election. And we should pay attention, of course, to that threat. Let's go to India, where their prime minister claimed a third term in office yesterday, a feat only one other Indian leader has accomplished. But early results say that Narendra Modi, who is a fascist authoritarian, I think it's fair to say, and very, very religiously discriminating against Muslims, who are the minority in India. And early results, however, showed a margin of victory that was far narrower than expected. So the tide might be turning, at least headed in the right direction there. Maybe. Am I saying too much? What the hell do I know? Let's come back to the U.S., where the Food and Drug Administration announced they're considering whether to approve MDMA, aka ecstasy, never done it myself, but I might, for treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder. Independent panel expected to vote on whether the treatment would be effective and whether its benefits outweigh its risks. Very interesting story there. Let's head to the Middle East. Well, at least comments on it from our president. President Biden said yesterday that there was every reason to believe that Israel's prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is prolonging the war for political gain. That's what he said. I think that's a pretty big deal. Yesterday, his son, his trial opening, the prosecution and defense presented their opening statements in his trial on federal gun charges. And apparently during a break, Hunter Biden's wife called a former Trump aide who was there for some reason a Nazi. They had some words. She called him a Nazi. I kind of like that. Let's go to Wisconsin, where they charged 3 Trump allies in a fake elector scheme. I think that's pretty good news. And whistleblowers at the company OpenAI apparently released an open letter describing that they say is a culture of recklessness and secrecy in their company at OpenAI. Let's head to the backward state of Louisiana now, where lawmakers sent a bill to the governor that would allow judges to order surgical castration for people who have been convicted of sex crimes against children. I'm guessing some of you might actually agree with that, depending where you're watching this news headlines. You TikTok people, I don't know, you're a little crazy. Thanks for watching, though. And a rare sports headline in my news rundown. Major League Baseball permanently barred a San Diego Padres infielder from the league for placing hundreds of bets on baseball. I guess maybe the guy's too young to remember Pete Rose. And finally, a family in North Dakota discovered a rare juvenile skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex while on their hike. I wonder who gets credit for that. How the hell did that happen? What did you do today? Those are your news headlines. I can't do them without your support. Go to patreon.com/PeteDominic right now.